So, hello, I'm Alexandra from Logopsicon, Belgium, and today I have a great pleasure to introduce to you this week's special guest. Judit Kormos is a professor of applied linguistics at the Lancaster University, United Kingdom. She is renowned for her work on second language acquisition and second language teaching. She's an expert and author of several publications about teaching languages to students with specific learning differences. So as this week in MoocDys, we are focusing on how small changes and teaching organization can change the way you work with youngsters who have specific learning difficulties. With Professor Kormos, we would like to focus on language learning. So, Professor, if you could tell us how to help students with learning difficulties to build confidence in language learning.
Inclusive education where everyone is appreciated and teaching is tailored to the students' strengths and weaknesses is key in raising students' belief that they can be successful language learners and language users. So one key word is obviously inclusive education and an inclusive attitude to teaching. More specifically, of course, praise and acknowledgement of achievement, how small it might be, is very helpful for students to regain or maintain their self-esteem and self-confidence. It's also important to set clear and achievable goals, which you break down into small steps to assist the students to see that they can succeed. Language learning is a long process. The end is quite far away sometimes. So if you create small steps in the goals, that can be very helpful. And of course, creating an accepting and tolerant atmosphere in the classroom can also establish positive support from peers, so that the students also accept that some students have learning difficulties and they learn differently. And what we can also help the students with is constructive self-reflection, where they understand themselves, evaluate their progress, and build their self-confidence. So again, understanding your strengths and weaknesses is key, and then it can help to boost your self-confidence.
What language teacher can do and to make adjustment in foreign language teaching process for the students with specific learning difficulties?
Okay, well, there are lots of do's. So in the short time, I'll try to summarize them. Well, of course, as I said earlier, the first step is to create an inclusive environment where every possible action is taken to meet the needs of a diverse group of students. Its inclusion is key for attending to the needs of the students and offering relevant accommodations and adjustments for students with specific learning. And in many cases, when the difficulties are not so severe, really small minor adjustments can be sufficient, and these students can then fulfill their potential. So let me just list a few. For example, providing outlines of lessons, classroom notes, glossaries, word lists, key points in written format to the students, or in a recorded digital format, that can be very useful. Developing a reading guide where there are comprehension questions that help the students to focus on particular pieces of information, paragraph by paragraph or section by section, again, can be very helpful for these students. You can break down instruction into smaller steps. So think about how to break up a larger unit into smaller sections. Giving more explicit explanation is something that students with specific learning difficulties really benefit from. Demonstrating the task and offering corrective feedback all through as the students are doing the task. Then additional practice, offering the students additional tasks, digital ones, classroom or paper-based one, again, can be very assistive for them. It is also important to emphasize that they need to do daily reviews of learning. Language learning is a bit like, almost like playing an instrument. You need to practice every day. Again, something very practical you can use, for example, a screen shade or spotlight to hide information that is currently not needed, and that students can focus on the task. This, that's because sometimes their attention can wander away. bookmarking where the students left off, again, can be very helpful. When you assess the students, then giving them extended time, additional breaks can help them accomplish the assessment task. Giving them support when they revise for the test, and helping them plan how to accomplish these assignments, again, can help them succeed. These students also might need reminders of the specific task, so encouraging them to use assignment books and calendars can help avoid that the students forget about the tests and or start preparing in the very last minute. Now, for language learning, the specific methods in the early years include, for example, phonological awareness, raising or phonics-based direct instruction, where the teachers focus explicitly on sound-letter correspondences, spelling, mixing sounds, blending sounds, and word-level reading skills, and developing their vocabulary in both languages. The students also benefit from the explicit teaching of reading strategies. So how do you approach a reading text? Explicit teaching of syntactic structures, how compound or long words are made of specific parts. In language teaching, we frequently recommend what is called the multisensory teaching method. And as its name suggests, it's a method where different sensory channels are activated. So students see the materials, they also hear it, they can act it out, they can touch things, they can imagine things, associate things with colors. And it's not just, this approach is not just important because the multisensory methods help students remember things better and practice them better and then retain what they learn, but also it has got a highly structured approach to language. What's important for these students to proceed in small steps, to know what's coming up, also to build on a strong foundation and to build in lots of practice and revision opportunities. It also, the multisensory approach also includes phonological awareness, so sound awareness tasks, morphological awareness, so that's what are the components of words, grammar awareness tasks. And it also gives more explicit teaching because students with specific learning difficulties often find it difficult to figure out rules just by reading or just by things. So they need a bit more explicit guidance, not necessarily rule-based teaching, but guidance how to discover rules for themselves. And this is an approach that I think helps everyone, but it's particularly helpful for students with specific learning difficulties.
So everybody could benefit, not only students.
Yes, I mean, all these methods are very beneficial for everybody. I think they form part of good teaching. And multisensory learning approach, some elements of it are used with young children. And nowadays there's more research evidence coming up that the more senses you involve in teaching, the better you remember.
Yes, and like we talked about do's, and what do you think, what educators should avoid when it comes to language teaching for students with specific learning difficulties?
Well, I don't like talking about don'ts, I prefer the positive terms, but if we want to talk about don'ts, okay, then first of all, I think don't ignore signs when a student is struggling with language learning. Language teachers can play a key role in identifying students with dyslexia and referring them for expert diagnosis, because sometimes students' difficulties in the first language are overcome with supportive parents or with good strategies, and it's learning another language when actually the problem surfaces. And don't think that it's only the specialist teacher's job to deal with dyslexic students. So I think that's a big don't. Don't exempt learners from language learning just because they have a specific learning difficulty. With the right support and appropriate adjustments, they can be very successful language learners. Something that I always say, an absolutely don't make a dyslexic individual read out a text in front of the whole class. It can be very painful and humiliating experience for them. And please inform other teachers if a student is dyslexic so that they don't ask the student to do this. You can, of course, develop the students' reading skills one-to-one, reading out to the teacher. If nobody else is listening, it's fine, but avoid doing it in front of a lot of other people. Don't expect students with dyslexia to be able to listen and take appropriate or effective notes at the same time, because they're divided. Don't present a lot of words in one class, and don't require students with learning difficulties to memorize a lot of words within a short period of time. Sometimes students are tested on a lot of words from one lesson to the other, and that's not very helpful for students with dyslexia. Don't assume that just because you told or explained something once, the students will remember it. Students with specific learning difficulties need to hear and encounter language several times to be able to remember it. They also need to practice more. If possible, don't emphasize spelling, focus on pronunciation and spoken parts of words. Don't give long reading and listening text followed by a long list of questions that require a lot of writing, because the students will have difficulty with these. So break up longer text into shorter sections, check comprehension using tasks where writing is kept to the minimum, use short answers, underlining, matching tasks instead. Multimodal presentation of text can help. So read out texts or allow students to follow the transcript of a listening task, or use subtitles for videos. Importantly, don't ban the use of the student's first language in the classroom. The student's first language can be used as a resource and a supportive tool, and can play a very important role in language learning. And finally, don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be discouraged if the adjustments or special teaching methods don't work for the first time. Students with specific learning difficulties can be very different from each other, and what works for one of them may not work for another one. And keep on trying and consult the student how they feel about the different methods and tasks, and what they think would help them.
Yes, thank you very much. Like, we finished that list of don'ts, which is quite positive. Like, we've thought that basically language learning is a journey, and but it's possible for everyone to learn a language. We just all need different things.